Hello everybody and welcome to another video, and today we're going to be revisiting a band I checked out. I think I've only checked them out once before on this channel, but they're a band that I'm a massive fan of. I absolutely love all their work. The lead vocalist was the inspiration for my vocal style that I used when I was in Repulsive Vision, the first band that I was in. So they're a band that I greatly admire and I really enjoy their music. And that is, of course, Carcass. Now, a couple of days ago, they released a new track called Kelly's Meat Emporium, which is off their new upcoming album, which I'm very much looking forward to. Now, with this being released only a day or two ago, there is actually no lyrics available for this track, and that's one of the main reasons why I've chosen to do it today, because I haven't slept in about 36 hours, and I don't think I'd be able to analyse any lyrics particularly well. So we're just purely going to listen to this track, see how awesome it is. Okay, it might be bad, I don't know, but I have high hopes. So we're going to jump into this track and see what we've got. So Kelly's Meat Emporium by Carcass. Let's have a look. There we go. Kelly's Meat Emporium by Carcass. Now I'm torn with that one because I mean, I like it, but it's not great. I feel there is a little something missing from that. They've sort of gone back to an older style, sort of like possibly just before Necroticism descanting the Insalubrious. Sort of maybe Symphonies of Sickness sort of mixed a bit with Necroticism, sound-wise. So, you know, a bit of an unusual sound. It's obviously not nearly as bad as Swan Song was. That was possibly their worst album. I mean, I still enjoy listening to it, but it's their worst album. That track, I don't know. Something felt slightly off about it. I mean, it's still very distinctively Carcass. You can tell by the tone of the guitar. They've got a very specific sound to their guitars, you know, a very specific tone that they use. You can tell it's them straight away. And, you know, that's always stuck. But, you know, like I said, I've always really enjoyed Carcass. I've always loved their music. Their sound has changed dramatically from when they first started to where they are now. But I really do enjoy their music, and I did enjoy that track. It's just not... I don't think it's it's not an excellent track, but it is a good track, if that makes sense. The video, in certain elements, is pretty much staple Carcass, you know, with all the butchery of animals and the meat and stuff like that. But then they've also thrown in the putrefying vegetables, which isn't something you'd really associate with Carcass and their lyrics, because a lot of their lyrics do revolve around butchery or you know, like what's the word I'm looking for? Autopsies and stuff like that. It's normally very visceral. So decomposing vegetables, not the first thing you'd think of when talking about Carcass. Although in saying that, when Carcass first started out, both Bill Steer and Jeff Walker were vegetarians. In fact, I think Bill Steer was vegan when Carcass first started out, and Jeff Walker was a vegetarian. You know, so that's something I always found quite amusing about the band. You know, they're always singing about like butchery, blood, gore, and meat and stuff like that, and two of the main members were vegetarians. I always found that amusing. So now having decomposing vegetables in their videos, kind of amusing as well. But yeah, like I said, they're very distinctly Carcass in its sound, but the actual song itself, I'm not sure about. I might have to give it a few more listens before, you know, something really sticks. But, you know, I still liked it. I still enjoyed it. I'm still going to go and buy that album, which I believe is called Torn Arteries. It did say halfway through the video, I believe it said /Torn Arteries, which I do believe is the name of the album that's coming out. And I'm definitely going to be getting that. Because, well, it's Carcass, and I've got quite the collection. I've got limited edition copies of all of the albums, so I'm definitely getting it. So, but like I said, my brain not fully functioning today because I've had absolutely no sleep for a day and a half. So I'm probably absolutely rambling as well, but I quite like that song. I think it's good, and yeah, I'll leave that as it is. And if anybody would like to suggest a track for me to react to, then please do so. By all means, you can drop a comment in the comment section below, or message me on my Facebook or my Instagram, or you could even message me through my Patreon, where you could help to support this channel, which of course be a massive help to me, because all of the content that I create for this channel gets immediately demonetized, so I make absolutely nothing for all the effort that I put into this, which is a little bit frustrating, but you know, it is what it is, and can't really argue with it. I mean, I am using copyrighted material, and it's only fair that the bands do get the recognition for their work. The fact they get all of it, I don't necessarily agree with, but it's the way it works. So if you'd like to help support the channel, you know, that would be great. There is an option in Patreon where you can get your suggestion jumped to the front of the queue if you should so desire it. There's a limit on how frequently you can do that, and that's just to be fair to people who suggest tracks through more regular means, such as YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram comments. And if you do make a suggestion through those more regular means, do know it could take me a while to get around to your suggestion, since I do get suggested so many new tracks every single day that my list grows faster than I can record the videos. But I do write down every suggestion I get, so it should get done eventually. It just might take me a while to get to it. Also, MetalHead Reacts is a proud supporter of the Sophie Lancaster Foundation, a British-based charity whose goal is to put an end to hate crime. And one of the main facets of that is hate crimes against people of the alternative culture, which is something I believe in very, very strongly. It's something that's been going on for absolutely decades, but is widely ignored. Nobody thinks that it's a problem, but it really is. It's a much bigger problem than people think it is. And the thing is, nobody ever talks about it. Nothing ever gets said or done about it. And when we're talking about hate crimes against people of the alternative culture, we're not just talking about like insults being shouted across the street or getting shoulder rammed, as you know, when you're out in public. We're talking about real violent crimes where people are getting hospitalized, sometimes with broken limbs and sometimes even more life-threatening injuries. But when these things happen, nothing gets said. You know, nothing gets put out into the newspapers, nothing gets out into the media, nothing is said. The last time there was anything widespread about this was about 14 years ago, when Sophie Lancaster and her boyfriend Rob Maltby were violently and brutally attacked by a group of 5 or 6 people who beat them, kicked them, punched them, knocked them to the ground and stamped on their heads so violently that they both ended up in comas. Now, thankfully, Rob Maltby survived the attack. He was in the coma for about a week and a half, maybe a little bit longer, but he did thankfully survive. Sophie Lancaster, on the other hand, she was in a coma for 13 days before she succumbed to her injuries and she died. This young woman was 20 years old and was beaten to death just purely for the fact that she was wearing alternative fashion and listened to alternative music. Now, when this happened, this was all over the news, as rightfully it should have been. And eventually, as all things did, you know, more news stories came in and it sort of faded into the background. But the thing is, in the 14 years since that's happened, we've not heard anything similar. But there have been several hundred, if not several thousand, similar incidents in that time, but nothing has been said. Just a couple of years ago, there was a very similar incident in Glasgow, Scotland, where a young woman was running a charity gig, and at one point during the evening she had to leave the venue where she was hosting and go back to her home for whatever reason. Her home was a 5-minute walk away from the venue. From the time of leaving the venue and getting to her home, she was attacked twice, again by a group of people. Again, a group of people, 5 or 6 people, who beat her, kicked her, punched her, knocked her to the ground and beat her more. They did this twice in the space of 5-10 minutes. Now, thankfully, during the second attack, a passing taxi driver put an end to the assault, but he didn't stop to see if she was okay. She didn't get help until she got back to the venue where her friends were. Nothing was said about this in the news. There wasn't anything in the newspapers. There wasn't anything all over the internet. There wasn't anything on the news on TV. Nothing was said. This was a violent and brutal assault. This was 2 violent, brutal assaults on a young woman, just purely for the fact that she listened to alternative music and more alternative fashion, and nothing was said. Now, if this had been racially motivated, if this had been religiously motivated, if this had been sexuality, you know, a homophobic attack, this would have been all over the news. We would have been hearing about this for days. But no, nothing was said. Not a single word of it. And thankfully, it didn't turn out like this, if she had died as a result of this assault, then it would have been in the news, and that is unacceptable. We shouldn't have to wait for someone to lose their life before this gets spoken about. We shouldn't have to wait for someone to die before something gets done. And this is what the Sophie Lancaster Foundation is all about. They want to bring more awareness of the fact that this is happening. They want more people to realise that this is a much bigger problem than people give it credit for. They don't want to see another family go through what they went through when they had to watch their daughter slowly die over the course of 2 weeks because of the small-minded actions of a group of people who couldn't handle the fact that not everybody likes the same stuff. But if we keep ignoring it, it's only a matter of time before what happened to Sophie Lancaster happens again. And we just can't let that happen. It's got to stop. So if you'd like to find out more about the Sophie Lancaster Foundation, there's a link to their website in the description below. You can go over there, find out what they're working on at the moment, find out what their overall goal is, because they can explain it a hell of a lot better than I can. And if you can help them out in any small way, obviously don't feel obligated to do so, but if you can help them out in any small way, whether it's a small donation through their website or something as simple as one of these Sophie wristbands, maybe even that one, they've got a whole bunch of other really cool stuff on their web store. But the smallest amount can make the biggest difference. And the sooner we bring more attention to this, the sooner we get more people talking about this, the sooner we can help to stamp out prejudice, hatred, and intolerance everywhere. But I'm going to leave that as it is for the time being. Thank you all very, very much for watching. I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.